Welcome to Mode Bespoke. I'm Atenas. Today we're going to be crocheting the bamboo book bag. So let's get started. This book bag measures approximately 12 inches wide, which is 30.5 centimeters, by 9 inches in height, and that's 22.8 centimeters. So to make this bag, really you can use any yarn or any size yarn you want, as well as any size hook you want, so long as you read the recommended hook size on your yarn label. I, however, am using a 4.5 millimeter Tunisian hook and a medium cotton yarn. So any medium cotton yarn you want will work just fine. So to crochet this stitch, you need to crochet in even numbers. So it's going to be multiples of 2. Now you can resize this and make this in any width you want, but just remember to make your initial chain in even numbers. We're going to begin with a slip knot, so you're going to wrap your yarn around 2 fingers, insert your hook through this first loop, grab the yarn behind it and pull it through, and then just pull on the threads individually to tighten the knot. So to make the book bag the 12 inches wide, I started with a chain of 56. So to make the chain, you are going to wrap the yarn around your hook, and you're going to pull that top loop through the bottom loop. And that's 1. So yarn over, pull through for 2, yarn over, pull through for 3, and continue until you have a chain that's either 56 stitches or any even number of your choice. So this is going to be the width of the bag. So once you make the chain in whatever width you want, you can begin with your foundation row. So for the foundation row, we're just going to cast on, and it's just a regular cast on. So skip the first stitch of your chain and insert your hook into the second stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull the loop all the way through, so pull that up so that you have 2 loops on your hook. Leave the loops there and just cast on into the next stitch. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a stitch. So continue until you have 1 loop on your hook for every chain that you made for your initial chain. So I would need a total of 56 loops on my hook. So now to work the return pass, this is just a regular return pass. We're going to begin with a yarn over and pull through the first loop on the hook. So yarn over and pull through 1. Now for the remaining loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. So there's 1, 2. Yarn over 1, 2, yarn over 1, 2, until you are left with just 1 loop on your hook. So for this tutorial, I'm going to do a quick review of the bamboo stitch. I have a tutorial specifically for this stitch. I will link it in the description box below if you need a slowed down version or a slowed down tutorial for the bamboo stitch. So the bamboo stitch is a really easy 1 row repeat. Once you've got your foundation row, you begin with the first row. So you're going to skip that first vertical stitch in every row. We're always going to begin on the second stitch. So you're going to yarn over and leave that on your hook. Then you're going to knit stitch into the second vertical stitch. So if you take a look at the stitch, you have the back leg, which is right here, and the front leg of the stitch. You're going to insert your hook right in between those and go all the way to the back. Yarn over and pull up a loop. So you have cast on a knit stitch. Repeat this in the next vertical stitch. So insert your hook and go all the way through the back and pull up a loop. Once you have cast on 3 loops, so don't include the first one, this one doesn't count. So you've got your yarn over and your 2 knit stitches. You're going to pull the yarn over stitch, so this one right here, that second loop, over the 2 knit stitch loops. So you're just going to pinch the loop and pull it over and off of your hook, like so. So we're going to do this again in case you didn't catch it. So your stitch is going to look like this once you're through. So begin with a yarn over. So this is the loop you're going to pull across. Hold this down, and you're going to insert your hook into now the next available vertical stitch, which would be the 3rd vertical stitch. You're going to knit stitch, and then you're going to knit stitch in the 4th vertical stitch. So here are the 3 stitches you just cast on. So you're going to pinch the yarn over loop, so this first of the 3 loops. You're going to pull it all the way over and off of the hook. And that's it. And then you're going to repeat this in every vertical stitch of the row. So yarn over, knit stitch, and then you're going to pinch the yarn over loop and pull it over and off of the hook. So I'm going to continue to cast on the remaining stitches. I'll see you here in just a moment. Once you have completed that last bamboo stitch, you're going to be left with the final stitch of the row. So you're going to cast on into the final stitch. So what I do is I insert my hook behind the two little legs, I guess, that make up that final stitch. And then all you do is yarn over and cast on a loop. And that's it. So there is our very first row. To complete the return pass, again, this is a regular return pass, so yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and so forth until you are left with just the one loop on your hook. And there you go, that is the first row of bamboo stitch. The rest of the fabric is going to be quite easy because that is all you have to worry about. You just repeat the first row, which is that bamboo row, until you reach the length that you want for the fabric so that we can fold it over and create the actual fabric for the purse. So you're going to need to crochet approximately 18 inches worth of fabric. So I'll give you some row counts here in just a moment, but let's review this bamboo row one more time. So for row number 2 and for all your other rows, you begin with your yarn over, beginning on that second vertical stitch of the row, and then the third vertical stitch, we're going to knit stitch into each of them. So knit stitch into the second vertical row, or vertical stitch, sorry, and into the third one. And you're going to pinch that yarn over loop and pull it over and off of your hook. So yarn over, knit stitch, and then pull that yarn over and off of the hook. So let me grab my fabric sample real quick and show you what it'll look like and what we're going to be working on here in just a minute. So this sample is 56 stitches wide. And here's the stitch. As you can see, there is spacing between the bamboo stitching. Now, if you would like to decrease the spacing between the stitching, you're going to need to use a smaller crochet hook. That is going to affect the width of your bag. So you will need to chain more stitches. If you want the spacing to be larger, then use a bigger hook. So let's talk about row counts and color changes. So as you can see for this bag, I used 3 different colors. I used a cotton in this shade of pink. I don't have the label anymore, so I don't know what shade it is, but I used also a gray and then an off-white color. As you can tell, these are not the same brand yarns. I just grabbed 3 different cotton yarns that were the same size, and I just liked the colors. So use whatever yarn you have on hand. Now, the row counts, I did 10 rows in the pink, and this is the foundation row plus 10. I did 1 in white and then 5 in gray. Now, to switch colors, so you're going to complete your entire bamboo row and the return pass so that you have 2 loops left. When you have those 2 loops left, you're going to grab your new color. You're going to loop it over your hook like this. Make sure you leave a long tail. You can weave that in later. And you're going to pull your new color through the 2 loops of the return passing your old color. And that's it. You have now switched colors. And then you just begin the bamboo row all over again. So yarn over, knit stitch 1, knit stitch 2, and then pull the yarn over loop over and off of the hook. And that's it. So color switching is really very easy with this stitch. Just remember to do your full row, and then on your return pass is your color switch. So the return pass is on the last 2 loops. So now that you know how to switch colors, let's just go over these row counts one more time. So it was 10 in pink, and then 1 in white or off-white, and then 5 in gray. If you don't want to switch colors, you can do the entire bag in one color. That's not a problem. Or you can, switch these up. Just make sure you jot down how many rows you did in each color so that you can repeat it. So the full-size fabric, this is what it'll look like. So it was 4 sections in pink. So there's 10 stitches here. So it's 10, and then 1, 5, 1, 10, 1, 5, 1, 10, and so forth. It was a total of 73 rows. So if you'll notice, this top pink one is only 5 rows. So the bottom one is 10, this top one is only 5. So you can continue working on it and make it longer if you want to make a deeper bag, but that is where I stopped. So now we're going to work on the top flap of the bag. Now with this one, I'm going to switch color. So I'm going to leave a long-ish tail of yarn. I will weave that in later. So work your color switch. And you're going to have to pay close attention to the sequence of the stitch for the decreases, because you are going to be decreasing in every row. So for the decrease, you're going to skip that yarn over, and you're going to insert your hook into that second vertical stitch. So pull it up like you would a Tunisian simple stitch. So let's do that again. You're going to insert your hook, and it's behind that top leg of the second vertical stitch. And then you're going to knit stitch in the third vertical stitch. So it'll look like this. Then you're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull it through both of the stitches so that you have decreased, taking those 2 vertical stitches and turning them into just 1 stitch. Now in the next section, you're going to continue to crochet the bamboo stitch. So yarn over and then bamboo stitch until you get to the end of the row. The decreases are going to go at the beginning and at the end of the row, in every row. So in the center stitches, just continue the sequence of bamboo stitches, and then I will see you when we get to this last bamboo stitch right here. So we're going to have to decrease right there. So let me finish the row, and I'll meet you when I get to this stitch. All right, we made it to the end of the row, so let's decrease. So we're going to Tunisian simple stitch into that first vertical stitch right here of that last bamboo stitch, guys. So Tunisian simple stitch, and then knit stitch, yarn over, and pull that through both of the loops. And then you're just going to cast on into the final stitch of the row. So this is what your row will look like. Now you're going to yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2 until you complete the entire return pass. Once you've completed your return pass, let's do another row of decreases. So in every one of the rows of decreases, you're going to join together the second and third vertical stitch of every single row. So it's always the first 2, but it might look a little bit different. So let's do this second row together, because it's going to look a little different than the row we just did. So just keep in mind that we are continuing this pattern of the bamboo stitch. So once you have done your decrease, you might have to knit stitch 1 stitch or go directly into a bamboo stitch. If that didn't make sense, that's okay. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. All right, so Tunisian simple stitch into that second vertical stitch, knit stitch into the second one. We're going to yarn over and pull through both of those stitches. So now we have that 1 loop on our hook for the 2 stitches. Because of the bamboo sequence, we don't want to ruin the rows. So in the 4th vertical stitch, you're just going to knit stitch 1. And then you're going to bamboo stitch right here where you see the next bamboo stitch. So continue to bamboo stitch until you get to the second to last bamboo stitch at the end of the row. So it's going to be this one right here. So it's going to be the full bamboo stitch. So I'm going to continue bamboo stitch until I get to this last full bamboo stitch of the row. So we have a knit stitch at the end of the row and a bamboo stitch. Now if you remember at the beginning of the row, we did a decrease and then we did a knit stitch and then we continued the row, right? So for the decrease at the end of the row, we're going to reverse the order of that stitching. So we're going to begin with the knit stitch, so just knit stitch 1, and then you're going to decrease using that second stitch of the bamboo stitch. So you're going to Tunisian simple stitch into the stitch, and then knit stitch into that last vertical stitch of the row. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops. And then you just cast on into the final stitch of the row. And then you complete a return pass. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2 until you complete the row. All right, so for row number 3, let's do another row together of decreases. We're going to decrease using the second and third vertical stitch of the row. So you're going to Tunisian simple stitch into the second one, knit stitch into the third, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And now the next stitch is a bamboo stitch, so just begin your bamboo stitch sequence until you get to the last 2 vertical stitches of the row. In the last 2 vertical stitches of the row, you are going to decrease again, cast on your final stitch of the row, and you are done. So I will meet you when I get to these last 2 vertical stitches. So once you reach these 2 last vertical stitches of the row, you're going to decrease again. So we're going to Tunisian simple stitch into the first vertical stitch, knit stitch into the second one, you're going to yarn over and pull up 1 loop. And then you just cast on into the final stitch of the row. Complete a return pass. And that's all. That's how you're going to handle the decreases for the top flap of the bag. Now you're going to continue to decrease until you are left with just 4 stitches at the top. So I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. While you're working on the top flap of the bag, I'm going to show you how to add these wooden rings to your crochet strap. Now these are optional. You can just make the strap without adding the wooden ring, in which case you would just chain, 8? Yes, you would chain 8 and then just single crochet until you create the length of the length of the strap. I can't speak. So to make the strap, we're going to crochet this directly onto the wooden ring. Now the wooden ring, you can use any size that you want. I will link the shop where I got this. I got this on Amazon, but I'll link it down in the description box. So to add the yarn to this wooden ring, you're going to insert your hook into the ring, leave a long tail end of yarn, loop it around your hook, and pull it through the center of the ring. Then you're going to chain 1 using both threads of the yarn. So chain 1. You're going to drop the tail end and just hold on to the working end. And then we're going to single crochet 7 stitches into the center of the ring. So insert your hook into the ring. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Once you have, well, I guess in this case it's 3 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through all of the loops on your hook. And then you repeat. So that was 1. Now we're going to insert our hook into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop. When you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over, pull through 2 for 2, and then single crochet for 3, and then continue until you have 7 single crochets. Once you have all 7 stitches, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work around. Beginning on that very first single crochet, you're going to single crochet into every stitch of the row. So beginning right there, you're going to insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. When you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And that's the first single crochet. So single crochet into each of these stitches of the row. And then you're going to crochet a total of 90 rows. So that's just for the shoulder strap. So let me finish this next stitch and I will show you what that shoulder strap is going to look like. So I've already made it right here. So this is a total of 90 rows. Don't forget that the shoulder strap is going to stretch. So this is quite a bit stretchy, and it's going to be stretchy the first, several times that you use this bag. At some point it will lose its stretch and it's just going to stay stretched out this way. So I don't suggest you add more rows because you could end up with a purse that's really, really long. It has happened to me before, that's why I'm telling you. So stick with the 90 rows. If you want to make it shorter, you can make it shorter, just try not to make it longer. So once you've crocheted the, 90 rows for the shoulder strap, you will have to add the second ring on the other end of the row, or I guess on the other end of the, what is this thing called? The shoulder strap. So let me show you what it looks like. So I'm going to pull out these stitches and show you how to add the ring to that last row of the strap. So let me grab my hook. Okay. You're going to grab the ring. You're going to insert your hook into the center of the ring. And then you're going to yarn over. So just grab the yarn, pull that all the way through the loop on your hook. So it's just going to be a slip stitch. And then you're going to insert your hook into that first stitch of the strap. You're going to insert your hook into the center of the ring. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop and then single crochet. So we have 2 loops on our hook. You're just going to yarn over and pull through both. And now you're ready to single crochet throughout the rest of the stitches of the row. So insert your hook into the stitch and then into the center of the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, and single crochet. Let's do one more. You're going to insert your hook into the stitch, so right here on the strap, into the hook, yarn over, and single crochet. And then just repeat until you finish the rest of the row. Once you complete that last single crochet of the row, this is what it's going to look like. You can pull these stitches down so that they just lay flat against the strap. And then when you weave in your end, you can just sew these down. But once you've completed that last single crochet, chain 1. This is going to create a little knot at the bottom, and you're going to cut a long tail end of yarn. So I've already cut it here. And then I'm just going to pull the hook and pull the yarn and tighten the little knot at the bottom. And there you go. Now with that tail end of yarn, I'm going to go through, weave in the ends, and I'm also going to sew this down. You can use any stitch you want, But that's how you complete the shoulder strap. Now, once you've completed the shoulder strap, you're going to add a few more rows. So see, here's the strap at the bottom. We're going to add 5 rows here on this other side. So you will also have to, I guess if you want to call it casting on, 7 single crochets onto the loop again, and then do 5 rows. It's going to create a small little strap, which is what you are going to use to sew the shoulder strap onto the bag. So this is just 5 rows. It's the same process that you did for the shoulder strap, but once you finish, it's going to look like this. You're going to chain 1 at the end. Now here, you're going to want to leave a long tail end, and I'm talking several inches. You're going to use this yarn to sew the strap onto the bag. So make sure you leave a nice long tail end of yarn. There we go. And then you're going to just pull the hook out along with the yarn, tighten the knot at the bottom, and repeat on the other side. That way you have 2 small straps that you're going to use to sew the shoulder strap onto the bag, the shoulder strap, and then you're going to repeat the same process we did for this little strap on the other hook, or not the hook, what is this called? The other ring, so that your strap looks like this. So you've got these 2 little ones and then the long shoulder strap. Again, leave this tail end nice and long. You're going to use that to sew the strap onto the bag. So when you finish that top flap of the bag, which I'm still working on it here, you're going to be left with a bunch of little tail ends like this. Make sure that you weave in all of the tail ends before you sew the bag together. So we'll talk more about this here in just a little bit, but I wanted to show that to you before I finished weaving everything in and finished the top flap of the bag. But here's the top flap of the bag. I've already continued working on all of my decreases the same way that I had showed you earlier. And here's what it'll look like at the second to last row. So I'm working a decrease, and then I'm going to do a bamboo stitch, and then I'm going to work a decrease, and then just insert my hook into that last, or into that final stitch of the row, so cast on 1 at the end. And this is where you're going to stop. So you're going to be left with 4 stitches. So it's 1 vertical stitch right here, bamboo stitch, and then a vertical stitch. That is the final row that you're going to work for the top flap. And then you're just going to work a row of bind off stitches. Now the bind off stitches are quite simple. It's just a row of single crochets. So beginning on that second vertical stitch, you're going to knit stitch. And once you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops to single crochet. Knit stitch in the next vertical stitch. Once you have 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2. And then repeat this in the next stitch. So knit stitch and then single crochet. Knit stitch and single crochet, and you're going to repeat this in that final stitch of the row. So knit stitch and single crochet to create that bind off. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work around. Now I'm going to add another little wooden ring. So this one is going to be smaller. So here's the little wooden ring. These are all part of that set that I linked from the Amazon set that I got. So as you can see, it is quite a bit smaller. It's got several different sizes, so just choose whatever size you like best. And we're going to add this kind of like we did to the rings on the strap. So you're just going to insert your hook into the ring, and then you're going to slip stitch. We're going to insert our hook into the stitch right next to that. We're going to pull on the yarn, and then we're going to single crochet. So as you can tell, for that first stitch, I didn't have to insert my hook into the ring since the yarn was already on the outside. But on the stitch right after that, I did have to insert my hook into the stitch and then insert the hook into the ring. You might have to get a little creative once you're adding that hook, or not the hook, I keep saying hook, once you keep adding the wooden ring onto this final row, but you would just have to change 1 stitch and then just single crochet for the rest of them. Once you have added the wooden ring, you're going to chain in that final stitch of the row, leave a somewhat long tail end. It doesn't have to be too many inches, but you're going to use this to weave in the ends and also to sew down that little row of single crochets. So I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. Let me just pull the hook out and the yarn, tighten up the knot. You are going to need a yarn or a tapestry needle for this, so whichever is easiest or whatever you can fit your yarn through will work just fine. And then the way I sewed this down, it was really quite simple. So if you see these little single crochet stitches right here, just line them up flat against the fabric of the top flap of the purse, and then you're just going to insert your needle through the bottom stitch, so the one for the single crochet, and then just any of the top stitches right above that on the actual fabric for the flap itself, and then just sew through. So as you can see, it's just a really simple stitch. There's nothing complicated about it, and I'm just sewing through, and that's it. And then just go through, weave in your ends. If you don't know how to weave in ends for this project or for any other project, I did link a tutorial down in the description box to show you how to weave in the ends for any yarn, crochet, or whatever project. Once you've completed all of that, you've woven in all of your ends, we're going to sew the bag together. So we're going to sew the sides together. But before we move on, let me just give you the row counts here for these color switches. I did 6 rows in the off-white, and then the rest of the rows for the top flap I did in gray. And that's for anyone who wants to make the bag exactly the same as the one I've got here. Otherwise, you can use any color combination you want, or you can even just do it in one single color. Alright, now let's sew the bag together on the side. For this, I used some of the pink yarn. So you can use any yarn you want. Make sure that you make a knot on one end of the yarn, and then you're going to insert the needle through the inside, pick any of the top stitches, and then this way your knot is hidden on the inside of the project. And we're going to sew through towards the end stitch right here. Let me pull all this yarn through. Okay, now line up the corner of the fabric, so this top corner. You're going to sew through. There we go. And then just hold your fabric so all of your stitches along the sides line up. So we just we just sewed into that first stitch. Now we're going to go back to the very first stitch we inserted our needle through, and we're going to insert it towards the inside and then pop the needle back out through the stitch right next to it. So here's the stitches. We're going to be working them like this. So you're going to insert your needle through the top part of one and then come out on the other side like that, and then just pull through. So now that we've gone to the top part, or I guess the top side of the fabric, we're now going to stitch on the bottom side. So where the yarn came out for the previous stitch, so here on our previous stitch, we're going to insert the needle and we're going to sew through onto the other side and then just pull the yarn through. And that was on the bottom side of the fabric. Now we're going to go back up to the top side of the fabric. You're going to locate where the yarn came out, here we go, for that previous stitch. Insert your needle into that stitch and pull it out on the other side. And then just pull your yarn through. So continue to stitch along the sides and then just tighten your yarn as you go for a seamless stitch. So all the way till you get to the end, then double knot, weave in your tail ends, and then repeat on the other side of the bag. Once you've stitched your bag, it'll look like this. So here are the sides, and then we'll just need to sew on the shoulder strap. So you're going to turn your purse to the side and you're going to hold up the shoulder strap so that this little bottom section lines up with the seam along the side of the bag. So let me show you what we're trying to do here. So we're going to sew the little strap like this so that the ring hangs over the top side of the bag. And then you're going to locate the seam along the side of the bag. You're going to place the small strap right over it and then just center that seam right in the middle of the strap and sew it down. Sew it down using whatever stitch you want. Once you've stitched down the bag, your strap should look like this. Make sure that the strap is not twisted before sewing down that second side of the strap. And now for the ring, I'm going to make a little tie at the front of the bag. This is optional, but what I'm going to do is an I-cord. So the I-cord, I do have a tutorial specifically for an I-cord if you want to see how to do that a little bit more slowly. But you begin with a slip knot, and then we chain 2. So there's 1 and then 2. We're going to insert our hook into that second chain from the hook. So, or I guess the first chain you crocheted. You're going to insert your hook and pull up a loop so that you have 2 loops on your hook. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through 1 loop. You're going to be left with 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through both loops. You're going to insert your hook into this bottom stitch right here. If you can't see the stitch clearly, you can count the stitches right here. So there's 1 and then 2, and it's going to be on the 3rd stitch from your hook. So you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Once you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through 1 loop. You'll be left with 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And then just repeat. So count to the 3rd stitch, so this one right here at the bottom. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop so that you have 2. And you're going to yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're going to repeat this row until you have a total of 60 rows. Once you've completed the 60 rows, you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to cut a small tail end of yarn. Let's pull the hook and the yarn, tighten a little knot at the bottom, and then you're going to pull on the cord. So it doesn't look like much now, but once you start pulling on it, it starts to look like an I-cord. So just grab 2 ends and then just go through and pull all along the cord. And there you go. Now you have an I-cord. So let's attach the cord to the bag. Now for this, you're going to need to lay your bag flat, and you're going to pull the top flap over the bag, and just make sure you lay it flat the way you want the bag to look once you've added this cord. And pull on that top flap nice and tight, because you want to attach the cord to the lowest part of the lowest part that the flap will reach. Then find the centermost stitch right here on the bag. So it's going to be this bamboo stitch right here, and pass the I-cord through the stitch. So I'm going to pull that to the inside of the bag right here, and then I'm going to pull the cord on the other side. So where's that other end? I'm going to pull that through to the inside of the bag. So you're going to end up with both ends of the cord on the inside of the bag. So here's what it looks like on the outside. And then line up the 2 ends of the cord. So make sure the strap is the same size. And we're going to make a knot. And then pull the cord towards the front of the bag. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to grab one of the ends of the bag, or not the bag, one of the ends of the cord, and pull that through. And then I'm going to go to the other side, right here, grab the other end of the cord, so the one that's still on the inside of the purse, and I'm going to pull it out. Like this. That way the cord is on the outside. And now you'll be able to pull the top flap of the bag down and tie it down with this little I-cord. And there you go. So that was our tutorial for today. If you would like to see the written pattern for this project, you can swing by the blog. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below the video. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to see more of my work, you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm at mode.bespoke. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next tutorial.